one of the questions I want to give back to people is, what impact are you missing out by not overcoming your fear of speaking, by not taking action, by not making the sales calls, whatever it is that you're not doing? What impact are you missing out on? So for me, I mean, there's thousands of lives I've been able to touch now, even millions. Like, thinking about one TED talk that I've done is almost at 1 million views now. Like, that's mind blowing to me, especially from a guy who 15 years ago, if you would have told me you'd be standing on stage talking to people, I'd be like, there's no way. Like, you would never do that.
And welcome back to Podcast on Wheels. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and today I'm joined by Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor. He's a speaker coach and transformational leader who's been featured on multiple TEDx stages. His latest talk, How I Overcame My Fear of Public Speaking, is a powerful story, moving past fear, finding your voice, and stepping into purpose. We're going to unpack that message today, and I promise you, it will challenge you to stop playing small and use your own voice to impact others. Welcome to the show, brother.
I've been looking forward to this. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you. Thank you. And so the first question that I would like for people to know from you is, what made you decide to finally face your fear of speaking?
Yeah, for me, I grew up with a tremendous fear of public speaking. Most of my life, I was terrified of it. And I still remember being in elementary school and I saw a speaker and it just moved me. And I remember that feeling I had, like how cool that was. But I thought, hey, that wasn't for me because I'm terrified. I can't even speak in front of my classmates. I couldn't even read. I talked about it in my TED talk. Like, I tried to read in front of the students and I was fumbling over my words and the kids started laughing at me. And I anchored a story in my mind: public speaking's not for you. And I had more experiences like that throughout high school, even into college. I almost failed a speech class because I had a panic attack during my speech. Further anchored in my mind, speaking's not for you. Leave that to the people that are good at it. They're natural. You don't need to do that. But then fast forward, I went to chiropractic school and I started learning about how the body can heal itself. And I got passionate about helping people with their health. And I realized if I truly wanted to make the impact that God has called me to, I need to overcome this fear so I could reach more people. So that was kind of the beginning. And I looked at people. I learned a lot from Tony Robbins. I read my first Tony Robbins book when I was 16. Went to a bookstore, found Awaken the Giant Within, which is this huge book, but it just spoke to me. And because I struggled with lack of self-esteem, self-worth, I just wanted to improve myself. And I read his book, and that really opened the door to me of like, man, if you change your mind, you can change your life. So one of the skills I knew I needed to develop was to overcome the fear of public speaking and actually learn how to communicate. Because when you do that, it opens up so many doors. So I started doing it. I started modeling other people that were successful. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey. I knew that it was all about impact for me. And I knew my ceiling was capped. If I didn't overcome this fear, I would never be able to reach the people that I could reach if I didn't overcome it.
Yeah, and you were already successful in the chiropractic business and had things going, right, before you started speaking, correct?
Yeah, so it's twofold. So we started building a successful practice, but then I started speaking within the community to build the practice. And that's when I really got my reps in. And I started to overcome the fear and then just go out and I would host workshops and do dinner with the doc and invite people out and just talk about health and how to live a healthy life. So that really got the reps in. But then it wasn't until 2018 where I had a near-death accident that changed everything for me. And for there, I was whitewater rafting, and I was on a men's retreat, and it was just a freak accident. We hit some class 5 rapids. I was sitting on the back of the raft, and our raft tipped over. And I just got trapped underneath the rapid itself, and it started pushing me underwater. And I still remember the sound of my helmet scraping down the rocks as I was being pushed under. And I ended up getting wedged between 2 rocks. And the last thing I remember thinking is, I'm not coming back up. And then everything went black, and then everything went bright white. And it was the most peaceful, serene feeling I'd ever felt in my life. And I lost consciousness. I don't know how long it lasted, but then I heard a voice that said, wake up. And thankfully I did, because I came back to consciousness and I was trapped underwater, wedged between 2 rocks. And I tried to push and I didn't budge. And I kept pushing and pushing. And then finally my adrenaline kicked in and I was able to push hard enough. I broke one of the buckles on my life jacket that was trapped under the rock, floated to the top, gasped for breath, got swept down the river. And man, at that point I was rocked. Like, what just happened? And at some point in life, we all question, like, why are we here? What's the purpose of all of this? So at that moment, though, I asked a different question. Instead of why am I here, I said, why am I still here? Because things could have been different in that moment. What if I wouldn't have been strong enough to break free? Or what if I wouldn't have heard wake up? There's all these what ifs. So one of the biggest lessons I took from that was, man, I'd gotten comfortable in life. That I knew that God has really called me to make a bigger impact here this time that I do have. So I realized, man, if I truly want to step into the calling that God has in my life, I need to exchange my comfort for my calling. And that really created a shift in me where I started putting out content and started my personal brand just kind of took off, not really trying to start a personal brand and a business. I just wanted to put out content that helped people. So it started with content. It led to speaking and leading retreats and masterminds and coaching and all the things. But that all stemmed really from my near-death accident.
Yeah, and that story, and I'm one of the many that are very thankful that you had the strength to break that buckle from the rock, brother. Very thankful that I've gotten to meet you. So as I've listened to your most recent talk, and you talk about how someone can shift the focus from themselves to their audience. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for me and for the listeners, I did a talk. So I've done 2 TED Talks. So in 2022, I did one about the lessons I learned from my near-death accident. And then that opened a lot of doors. I started speaking all over. But a lot of people would reach out to me and be like, man, that's awesome. I wish I could speak. I'm just terrified of it. It just comes natural to you. And I kept having to tell everybody the same story. Like, no, this did not come natural to me.
Yeah.
Like, I had a tremendous fear that I had to overcome. So I kept saying that over and over, and then finally realized, like, that's my next talk. Because from 2022 to 2024, I actually did my second one. And then I've been praying, like, just asking God, like, what should I share? And then that's when he revealed to me, he's like, hey, you're saying this to everybody over and over about your fear. Why don't you share that? So that's what I did. In that talk, I shared how I overcame my fear of public speaking. And one of the lessons I realized, one thing that was making me so nervous when I got up to speak, that I was getting in my own head. I was thinking about times in the past when I'd spoke and it didn't go well and how nervous I felt and all the energy that came up. And I would just create this story like, hey, this isn't going to go well. You're going to fail again. What if they judge you? What if they don't like what you're wearing or your haircut or the sound of your voice? Like, all those things we think about are about me. So I shifted it. And I was like, no, I'm here to make a difference in the lives of someone in this audience. Somebody's going to hear this message. If one person acts on this message, it could completely change their life. And when I did that, I shifted the focus from me to who is that one person I can impact. I stopped thinking about all those things. Like, well, what are they going to think? I don't care anymore, because all I cared about was making the impact in at least one person. And the big thing I noticed, one, it helped my anxiety and the fear go away. But the cool thing is when I had that focus on impacting people, then when I started to speak, I would have people come up to me and say, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Because when you shift your focus and you don't make it not about you, and I think for anybody wanting to speak too, it's not about you. It's not about, hey, look how good I am and all this knowledge I have, listen to me. No, you're there to serve the audience. And when I shifted that, man, that changed everything. It made me a better speaker. It helped me overcome the fear, but it also helped me make a bigger impact in the lives of others.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I listened to your TEDx talk several times over the last few days in prepping for this show, and I could feel that. And one thing that I want the listeners to understand is you talk about how to turn fear into excitement in the moment and how closely they are related. So share a little bit about that, because that opened my eyes. You know, as many shows as we've done, the times I've spoken in front of people, the times I've had to carry a stool to sit on just in case my legs got a little wobbly when I got up there to speak, or things like that. But turning fear into excitement, that really impacted me. Share that with us, please.
Yeah, and that's something that really helped me overcome the fear too. Like, one, just knowing like it's okay to feel nervous. Like, everybody does it. And I remember years ago, this is probably 2011 or so, I was at a leadership event with Pastor Stephen Furtick of Elevation Church. And I asked him, I was like, do you get nervous when you get up to speak? And he said, every single time. And he said, if I wasn't nervous, that means I don't care. And you look at him, he's got one of the largest churches in America. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for a while, and I saw them baptize like over 2,000 people in a weekend. Like, he's in front of a lot of people. But for him to say he still gets nervous, one, that's okay for you to be nervous. But then what I did, I shifted it, because what happens when we get nervous? We go into fight or flight. That adrenaline starts kicking in. Like, your voice can start shaking, your muscles can tense up. Some people get sweaty palms. Like, a lot of symptoms can happen when we get in that fight or flight response. So for me, I was like, well, what else? What other times do I feel these feelings? Well, I feel that when I get excited too. Think about when you get really excited about something. And I met a guy along the way. He's a fellow speaker. He played in the Super Bowl with the Eagles. And I asked him about that. I was like, dude, were you nervous about that? And he talked about the jitters pregame. And he's like, but you know what? It wasn't nervous. It was excitement. And I was like, man, that's such a great pre-frame. You feel the same way. You feel the nervousness, but here's the mindset shift. If you feel the nervousness and you think, I'm afraid, I'm going to mess up again. What if I say something wrong? What if? Then it's going to go in that direction, because where your focus goes, your energy flows. So instead, for me, I shifted it and said, okay, when I feel those feelings, I'm not going to tell myself I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm afraid. I'm going to say, I'm feeling this because I'm so excited. I'm so excited that I get to go out there and change people's lives today. And when I shifted that, I really did get excited. So it made me feel like, no, I'm so excited. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to rock it. I'm going to change somebody's life. And that one shift made a huge difference, because even when you're opening a speech, a lot of times it takes you a couple minutes to get through that jittery nervousness. But for me, I could feed off of it and say, that's an excitement. That's an energy that I can use for fuel, not an energy that's fear and that's going to deter me from my message. So shifting that was huge. Of, nope, I feel the feeling. What am I going to do with it? Because nothing has meaning until we give it meaning. That feeling, I was giving it a meaning of, you're afraid, you're terrified, you're going to suck. But then I could shift and give it a completely different meaning. I feel that feeling. You're excited. You're going to rock it. You're going to crush this thing. And just that one mindset shift was a game changer.
Yeah, and it's really that simple, isn't it?
Yeah. What you focus on expands.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because this is relative to me, and you may or may not remember this, but I believe it was the end of 23 or first part of 24. I was on a Zoom call, and you were speaking on the call. And at that time, I was trying to ask questions on every call. If I get in a room with people, because I was that guy, as you mentioned in your speech, that if we went around the room and I had to stand up and say, hi, my name is Brian Smith, and I'm from that, I would stutter or I would lose my train of thought or that. But I asked you, I said, who wants to hear my story? Why should I share my story? And that's the next question. Why do you encourage people to share their story?
Yeah. And before I answer that, let me give you props there, because I think that's a skill everyone needs to develop. And that's something, I think that's why you and I resonate so much as well, because I'm the same guy. If I'm getting in rooms with people, I'm asking questions because I want to learn. We've never arrived. As many podcasts as you've done and all the things that you've done, we can always learn and grow. So that's shout out to you, man, because you did. I remember that call and you're asking questions, because that's how you learn, man. And that's with anything. Like, you get in the rooms, you get around people, and even if you're more successful than some people, you can still learn from them. You can still learn from anyone. And I think that brings it back to the story. And I shared that in my TEDx talk, which is the major theme of all of it. I believe everyone has a message to share. And it goes back to the quote I shared from my friend Rory Vaden. He said, you are perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were. So think about that. If you're trying to think, what is my story? You are perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were. What have you been through in your life? What challenges have you faced? What obstacles have you overcome? There's lessons you've learned along the way. You can take those lessons and share with other people. And really, that's how I got started with all of this. I was just looking at, what am I passionate about? Mindset, leadership, personal development. And I was just sharing things that helped me, and hopefully they would help other people. And that's how I got started. It's kind of snowballed. So for everyone listening, what have you been through? What lessons have you learned? There's people that are in that position that you were at one time that you could speak life into them right now where they're at, and it can be a complete game changer for them. So don't think you don't have a message. Everyone's got a message. You're here for a reason. And it goes back to that question I asked myself after my near-death accident. Why are you still here? Like, you need to ask yourself that right now. You don't need a near-death accident. You don't need a rock bottom moment in order to change your life. Ask yourself. I mean, life is a gift. You didn't have to wake up today, but you did. And you're listening to this podcast right now for a reason. So when you can answer that question, why am I still here? I woke up today for a reason. Why? And man, you answer that, then you figure out, okay, I must be here for a reason. So what's the story that I have that can help someone else? Because remember, your message isn't about you. It's not, hey, I'm going to talk about myself. It's no, I can use my lessons to help the person on the other side, whether it's the other side of a camera, stage, audience, whatever it is, even one-on-one with people. How can you use your story to help them?
Yeah, and that got me that day. And as I started this show, it was like, okay, what kind of guests do I want to have? And some guests come on, and it's guys that either played ball for me or guys I'm in business with or different types of scenarios. And then sometimes they tell me a story about something I said to them 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I may or may not remember it. I just thankful that it resonated with them and learning through those experiences, right? So I know that you told a story about a guy that went on and did some triathlons and did some things. And if you could share that story with us to show what kind of impact it had on that guy.
Yeah, and this goes back to, it was my first talk. So this was for our clinic back then. And we were at a church, and there was over 200 people in the audience. And man, I went through the steps. Like, I was feeling that nervous energy, but I transformed it into excitement. I was like, man, I'm going to come out there. I'm going to transform someone's life today. And I still remember him. He was sitting at the front of the stage, front row. I remember making eye contact with him, and he ends up coming into our clinic. And I couldn't really say that part because you can't talk about your clinic and stuff like that on the TED platform. But he came into the clinic, and we were having a conversation, and he told me the story. He said he was 65 years old, and he just had quadruple bypass surgery. So he just came off of surgery, quadruple bypass. And he said that they brought my little grandson in the hospital bed. They put him on my lap. And he said, with tears coming down, he was like, I was looking at my grandson, and I made a promise to him, I'm going to be around to watch him grow up. And he said he went to my talk. It was all about health and how to live a healthier life. He said, what you shared with me is exactly what I need, and I'm ready. I want to do whatever you tell me to do. I'm going to get my life back. And he did it. He took action and went on at 65 years old, started running Ironmans, which is one of the most difficult races, from full marathon, triathlon, swimming, all in one race. And then he went on to do, I think, at least 4 other ones after the age of 65. So the point that I shared of why I shared that message anyways is, if I never would have overcame my fear of public speaking, I never would have been able to impact his life. And that's one of the questions I want to give back to people is, what impact are you missing out by not overcoming your fear of speaking, by not taking action, by not making the sales calls, whatever it is that you're not doing, what impact are you missing out on? So for me, there's thousands of lives I've been able to touch now, even millions. Like, thinking about one TED talk that I've done is almost at 1 million views now. Like, that's mind blowing to me, especially from a guy who 15 years ago, if you would have told me you'd be standing on stage talking to people, I'd be like, there's no way. Like, you would never do that. So yes, the impact is there if you're willing to overcome the fear, if you're willing to and it's worth it. That's the thing. You're worth it. Your story's worth it. Your message is worth it. There is someone out there. You have a message inside of you the world is waiting to hear. There's someone out there that's desperately waiting to hear your message.
Yep, they are. They are. Believe it or not, guys, if you're watching this show, you're one of them. You're one of them. You've got a story to tell. And so you've kind of touched on this, but what's one step that a person could make today to start using their voice? If they don't have a show, if they're not on stage, or they're just they have a regular job or that, what could they do to start, using their voice?
Easiest thing to do, pick up your phone, just record yourself. And so it goes back to going through the steps, trying to figure out, okay, what can I share with other people? You don't want to just randomly get on there and just start rambling to your phone. But there is a message inside of you. There's something that you should share with other people. So think through that, figure out what that is, but then take the guesswork out. For me, when I first got started, the first of 2020, I started a Facebook group, January of 2020. I was like, I had all the limiting beliefs everyone has. Like, what if nobody shows up? What if nobody cares about this? Like, what if nobody listens to what I have to say? Brian, I don't know if you've ever felt that when you get started, but I was feeling that. But I felt the fear and did it anyway. That's one of the things I got from Jack Canfield years ago. He's like, the successful people feel the fear and do it anyways. So I would show up weekly and I would go live. And I would interview, just like we're doing right here. I would interview someone live in my Facebook group every single week. So that was my commitment. But then I started around that. I just started speaking to my phone. And I would just share something that was helpful for me that I hope would help someone else. So if you're ready, if you just want to get started with it, just do that. And the way I help people overcome the fear just on camera is just tell yourself for 30 days straight, and I really like going 60, but do at least 30 days, I'm just going to record myself talking on my phone, just sharing something helpful. And you don't even have to post it. Just do it for 30 days recording yourself. But what you'll notice, and it could be day 2, day 10, or day 28, but along the way, you're going to be like, man, that was actually good. I should post that. And then the more reps you get in, it's just going to come natural. But then you got to remember, it's not about you. And it's not about the likes. It's not about how much reach. Can this thing go viral? It's about the one person that's on the other end of this that gets this message, how it can change their life. And that reminds me, and Brian, you'll get this because you know about podcast numbers. It's not about the numbers. But there's a friend of mine, I was on his show. Now he has, I'm going to get the number right. He's had over 10 million views on his podcast. So he gets like 50,000 downloads a month. That's a lot of downloads on a podcast for people that don't know download numbers. But he was telling me his story, and for 9 months, not 50,000 a month, he was getting 50 total a month. And he started wondering, he's like, man, nobody's listening. Like, half of these people, it's probably my mom and my family listening anyways. So he's like, is this still worth it? Like, still 9 months in, around 50 listens. And he said that 9 month mark, he got an email from someone in Japan. And he said, because of your show, I didn't take my own life. Mm-hmm. And he said, in that moment, I don't care if there's 50 people, 1,000 people, 50,000 people, I'm going to show up for that one person. So I think that's the mindset. If you're starting out, who's the one person I can help? That's who you're talking to. And just record yourself on your phone and just post it and don't care what happens. Don't care if 5 people watch it or 500 people watch it. Just do it. And then another mindset shift I'll share too is I travel and I speak a lot. Like I just traveled to Atlanta, spoke to a group down there. There's a lot of work that goes to traveling and speaking. Let's say if I go, I did one earlier this year. There's 1,000 people there, which was awesome. But it was a lot of work. The travel, being away from my wife, all the things, versus how easy could it be? And it might take a few videos, but you could just shoot a video and reach 1,000 people right there on your phone, not have to leave the comfort of your own home, not even have to get in front of an audience and speak and worry about being nervous. Just speak, because it's a lot easier to reach a massive amount of people if you're consistent with content. You don't have to go do a talk to 1,000 people or 500 here, 100 here, and travel all over. No, you have access to people right here. They're on their phones. Just get in front of them with content.
Well, I want to say thank you for sharing that, because I received that same message not so long ago. And when I got that message, that made me emotional. And I'm not normally an emotional guy, right? I'm not going to cry on camera most of the time. But I got a message from a guy that said, hey, this particular show where we had a guest who had attempted suicide and then found his calling and his purpose, and it resonated with that guy. So yeah, you never know who you're going to impact. So thank you. I hadn't got to share that on a show, but hadn't found the right spot. So thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
you said you,
That reminds me of the quote that I shared in my TEDx talk too, is you never know how far reaching something you may think, say, or do today can affect the lives of millions tomorrow. Because the thing is, especially putting out podcasts, content, different things, a lot of the impact you never even know happens. A lot of times people watch it and they change their life and they do something, they took action on your video, but they never tell you about it. They don't even like your video, comment, or do anything, but people are watching. So the cool thing is when people do let you know. So if anybody has been impacted by this show, make sure you message Brian, let him know, because we love hearing this. Like, this is why we do what we do. But remember for yourself, a lot of the impact is happening without you even knowing it. People are being impacted by your videos. I see it all the time. People years later that I'll actually run into at something, you're like, man, I've been watching your videos forever. I love this one. And it's like so cool to hear about then, but it's like, man, I never even knew that was happening behind the scenes.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that is starting to happen, like I said, for us. And that feeling, you, like you said, if it reaches one or however many, you don't know how that's going to impact. So thank you for that. The one thing that I like to do on this show is we've talked about your speech, and I follow you guys pretty closely. Now, some of the favorite things that I like to see are those backyard shots with the fire and the food and the stuff that you guys do. Um, but what are some things that maybe you and Courtney have been able to do or travel or enjoy or get the opportunity to do that otherwise would not have happened for you guys? Share one of those fun stories or something that you guys gotten to do.
Well, there's two sides of that too. So one, people listening, if you're putting out content, a lot of the best content is the behind the scenes. Just share your life. Like, people want to know that stuff, because you don't have to get on there and be motivational and like have this script of I'm going to talk about this and motivate somebody today. No, a lot of times I went back a couple years ago. I surveyed clients that worked with me, and I asked them like what made them want to work with me. And obviously, when money exchanges hands when problems are solved. Coach Burt talks about that. So it's like obviously I was solving a problem for them, but they said the biggest reason is you have the life that I want. I see you and Courtney are going on date nights. You guys are traveling together. You were doing these things. That's what I want. So that's what they were resonating with my content, was the behind the scenes stuff, sitting around a fire doing that stuff. So I think for me, the cool thing about is overcoming the fear of public speaking. I get a lot more opportunities to speak. And a lot of times I got to go to just, it was earlier this year, I spoke at an event down in Florida, West Palm Beach, which was beautiful. Courtney got to go with me and just hang out at the beach while I was doing my stuff. I also got to go out to Vegas. I was invited to be in the Wynn Hotel. The resort's got a Sirius XM studio. So I was invited to come out and be on a podcast there. Courtney got to come with me. We got to hang out in Vegas. That's the first time I'd ever been to Vegas. So it's like cool opportunities come up. We love to travel and just enjoy life. She gets to do that with me. And that's been one of the most fun things is having her be able to come along the way.
Yeah, and I've seen you guys interact and things, and here's what I want to tell the listeners is obviously you can feel that Justin's just genuine, and meeting you and getting to see that interaction and then see that, because there's a certain responsibility that comes with being who you are. And like, here's another question: how many times? Because this has just started for us, so I need some help here. As we go out, we're seeing people, and they're like, "Hey, you're the couple from YouTube, or you're the couple from this, or you're that." So it also has kind of raised our level of communication and things. So it's made our marriage better. It's made our life better because people are watching, and it holds me accountable in a way. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, and that's the weird thing about it, because people are watching. And I still remember when I first got started, started putting stuff out and doing the podcast, interviewing people, and then me and my wife, we just went out to dinner, and there was a chamber event going on. So a lot of people there were from the chamber, and people kept coming over, and like they treated me like I was a local celebrity. And they were like, "Hey, I saw you interviewed so and so, and then this you talked about this, and like I've been watching your stuff," and like I felt like a local celebrity. And the funny thing was, like, none of them have never engaged with any videos. They never liked anything, so I didn't even know they were paying attention. But they did treat me like this local celebrity. And like you said, with that does become responsibility because, and here's the cool thing is, and you said it, it's the authenticity. It's being real. Because it's one thing to be like, yes, the intention's on there, so let me put on a show and act like we do date nights and act like we do this. That's one thing, but people see right through that. But when you can be the real authentic you, and it does challenge you and it makes sure you step up and be the person that you should be. And I think that's the call, is when you do get elevated to the standard, but then you hold yourself to that standard and not put on a show and I'm going to act like it. Like, no, I'm going to live at this standard. And then I'm going to share that with others so I can help raise them to that standard as well. But I think that's the biggest thing, is being yourself. And I appreciate that compliment. And that's probably one of the favorite ones I get, is when people meet me, they're like, he's the same person in person that he is on the camera or on stage or whatever, because it is just real. It's not like there's a stage persona or there's a content persona and then I'm different over here. I know it's the real person. And that's my encouragement to everyone out there. People want more of you, the real you. And even for me, when I first got started, like I started coaching, and I'm like in the coaching personal development space. I'm like, man, you got Tony Robbins, you got all these people that people can just go to and then go to his seminars and go to his retreats, because I was hosting my retreats. And then a mentor of mine said, well, you know what? Yes, they could go to there, but they can't hire Tony Robbins to be their coach. I mean, it take a couple $1 million a year to have Tony Robbins actually be your coach, but they can hire you. So that's what they want. They want somebody they can have access to. And you don't have to be famous and be Tony Robbins or other people. Just be you. And I think that was a huge lesson for me. Is like, you know what? I can just be me, and people will resonate with that. So for everyone listening, just be you. People will resonate with you, with your story. They just want to get to know you. So put your story out there.
Well, I'm going to go off script. I had some questions here for you, but what's to come for you? What's next? What stages, what trips, what things do you have upcoming?
Yeah, so just got back, spoke at an event in Atlanta, which is really cool. The Porsche Experience Center, which people go down there and just race Porsches around this track, was really cool. So it was cool to speak there. I ended up speaking 42 speaking engagements last year, and that kind of burnt me out. It was cool. It was like God opened these doors, but then I was just praying. I spent a lot of time at the early 2025 praying about it, and like, God, just what's next? Like, where are we going with this? And he showed me two paths. He's like, I can continue opening doors like this, or you have an opportunity right here locally. So it's kind of came back full circle with me in my clinic. I'm using all the stuff, the content, the things I did to build my personal brand that has allowed me to speak. He's like, but you can use that same stuff to help more people in your local area. So that's been kind of cool now, is I'm doing more content that help people locally, and even doing talks here locally that, one, so I don't have to travel as much. I can actually be here and enjoy life off of the road, but still making a bigger impact. Still doing talks and still doing that things, but I'm saying no to a lot more, so I can say yes to the things that make a bigger impact.
If somebody wants to find you, follow you, what's the best way to look you up, Justin? Is it Instagram, this, that? How can they go on and see that TED Talk?
Yeah, Instagram's probably the easiest, at Dr. Justin Moseley. And I do, in my bio, have a link to the TED Talk there. But you could just go to YouTube and put in Justin Moseley TED Talk, and it'll pop up right there. How I overcame my fear of public speaking. And my goal for that now is like, yeah, the next step, it's right around 800,000 views now. I want to get that to 1 million. And then even past that. I mean, it's growing by a couple thousand views a day, which is mind blowing. Somebody commented the other day, I'm watching from Nigeria. Like, it's cool, just like the impact all over the world this thing's happening. A lot of people are commenting, I'm watching this because I got a speech next week or something. Like, so they're like nervous, so they get on there to watch it. But the cool thing is, no matter what level you're at, I've had people. A cool thing, I just found out a couple things too. A high school teacher said she's using my TED Talk for her students. Like, so their school every year is watching my video. And another speaking coach that I ended up being on his podcast, he's using mine to break down my speech to show them like how to create a speech and overcome the fear. So it's been cool. So no matter what, I think we've all experienced at some point some level of fear when it comes to public speaking. So I think anybody can get something from my talk. So go to YouTube, Justin Moseley TED Talk, and it's how I overcame my fear of public speaking. And I hope it's a blessing to you.
Awesome. Well, before we completely wrap up here, what's something that you would want to share that I didn't know to ask, Justin? What's something else, a quote, a verse, something that's important to you that has made a big impact?
Yeah, I think it's all about service when it comes like just the fear of public speaking, shifting the message away from you and onto them. You're there to serve the people and what's in it for them. And I build my businesses from our clinic to other businesses, my speaking, my coaching on two things: that Jesus didn't come to be served, Jesus came to serve. So that's service. But then the other is the Zig Ziglar quote: you can get anything in life that you want if you help enough other people get what they want. So just have that heart of service and go out there and use your talents, gifts, and abilities to serve people, and it's going to come back to you.
Justin, I want to thank you sincerely for being on the show today, sir. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And guys, as he said, his TEDx talk, it is powerful. And if you want to see it for yourself, like he said, go to How I Overcame My Fear of Public Speaking. We'll drop the link in the show. And Justin, I look forward to hopefully, I just talked to a mutual friend of ours yesterday. We may be up in the Nashville area at the end of the month. So hopefully we can check in with you when we're in town, brother.
Let me know. I always love connecting with you.
Awesome. And thank you guys for watching Podcast on Wheels.